The Panama Canal is considered one of the most significant construction projects of the early 20th century. However, the truth is that the Panama Canal was a chaotic endeavor in the early stages of construction. Initially attempted and then abandoned, the project was revived in 1903 due to the increasing demand for a new trade route that would connect the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. The terrible conditions of the Drake's Passage near Antarctica, with its abundance of ice, made shipping through it too dangerous. With the growing role and influence of the United States in the world, particularly in the Western Hemisphere, building a canal somewhere in Central America was only a matter of time. When the Suez Canal was constructed in 1869, it was widely recognized as the ideal location for a canal that would significantly expedite and simplify shipping. Instead of having to sail around the entire continent of Africa to reach destinations like India, China, Indonesia, and other countries, ships could now take a much shorter route through the canal. The same problem was relevant here in the Western Hemisphere. Constructing a canal in Central America was crucial for gaining access to global trade. But Central America isn't Egypt. Central America mainly consists of high mountains, rainforests, and tropical swamp forests. Not the best area to build a canal. In contrast, Egypt is a flat terrain with a ton of sand, and the only thing that you need to do is just to dig out all of that sand and boom, here is your canal. So the location where the canal will be constructed was a crucial point. There were approximately 7 different suggestions ranging from Mexico to Colombia, but only 2 of them were taken seriously: the Panama Canal and the Nicaraguan Canal. Let's begin with the latter. The Nicaraguan Canal was one of the initial proposals to connect the Caribbean Sea with the Pacific Ocean. Unlike the Panama Canal, the isthmus of the Nicaraguan Canal is considerably wider, but it has no steep mountains at all. Additionally, it benefits from the presence of a large lake and navigable rivers. The Nicaraguan Canal Company was unable to raise the $100 million in capital needed to build the canal or convince the United States government to take over its construction. By the end of 1891, the company had completed the following work: 18 kilometers of railway necessary for the project, part of the construction of Greytown Harbor, and dredging work over the length of 2 kilometers. But later the United States completely focused its attention on Panama. The US Senate considered the Panama Canal more preferable. Here is why. After the US emerged victorious in the Spanish-American War, it sought to consolidate its presence in the Caribbean and Central America. The US gained control over Cuba and Puerto Rico, but it was crucial to ensure stability not only in these territories but also throughout Central and South America. To achieve this, the United States needed a strategic foothold that would allow them to exert control and operate efficiently in the region. The Panama Canal emerged as the ideal location and the most reliable guarantee for their objectives. In order to gain control over the Panama region, the United States needed to establish the Panama State. Before 1903, Panama was a part of Gran Colombia and didn't exist as an independent state. However, the separatist movement in Panama was strong, and this presented the perfect opportunity for the United States to take control of the territory. The United States was sure that if they established the Republic of Panama, they would be always loyal to them. Otherwise, the United States would intervene and set another government. The key to controlling the region wasn't just the construction of the Panama Canal, but also ensuring that Panama remained completely loyal to the United States. This helped to enforce the Monroe Doctrine, which asserted America's influence and prevented any threats or challenges to its power. With the backing of the United States, Panama seceded from Colombia in 1903. The construction of the Panama Canal was one of the largest and most complex construction projects undertaken by mankind. The Panama Canal had an invaluable influence on the development of shipping and the economy as a whole in the Western Hemisphere and throughout the world, which led to its extremely high geopolitical significance. That's why the first attempt to build it has totally failed. It all started in 1881, when the famous French engineer Ferdinand de Lesseps came here to build his new canal. A few decades earlier, he built the Suez Canal, so his reputation was really high as well as his confidence in that idea. He raised considerable funds in France as a result of the huge profits generated by his successful construction of the Suez Canal. Everyone thought that it's gonna be the second French triumph in building such a great and important construction. But his project wasn't prepared for Central American realities. The men working on the canal weren't prepared for the rainy season, during which the Chagres River, where the canal started, became a raging torrent, rising up to 10 meters. The dense jungle was full of venomous snakes, insects and spiders. But the biggest challenges were yellow fever, malaria and other tropical diseases, which killed thousands of workers. By 1884, the death rate was over 200 people per month. Workers had to continually widen the main cut through the mountain at Culebra and reduce the angles of the slopes to minimize landslides into the canal. Meanwhile in France, Ferdinand continued to invest money and supply workers for the Panama Canal project long after it became apparent that the goals weren't being achieved. However, in the end, the funds were depleted. The French attempt went bankrupt in 1889, after reportedly spending a staggering amount of $287 million. An estimated 22,000 men lost their lives due to the disease and accidents, and approximately 800,000 investors lost their savings. But there was a man who didn't give up on the Panama Canal project, despite its initial failure. His name wasn't Ferdinand de Lesseps, but Philippe Varia. Philippe was the main engineer who had his own plan for building the canal, but was ignored by others. When de Lesseps' plan failed, Varia saw his chance to redeem the project. As Panama's ambassador to the United States, he signed a treaty granting the United States the right to build and administer the Panama Canal Zone and its defenses indefinitely. From 1903 to 1979, the territory was controlled by the United States, which had purchased the land from its private and public owners. The Canal Zone was abolished in 1979, and it was fully turned over to Panama in 1999 due to the Treaties of 1903. 1903? Yeah? Now let's get back to this year, because it's time to build the canal. The US War Department formally took control of the canal property on May 4, 1904, inheriting from the French a depleted workforce and a vast jumble of buildings, infrastructure and equipment, much of it in a poor condition. After 2 years of extensive work, the spread of mosquito-borne diseases was almost entirely eliminated. But even with all that effort, around 5,600 workers lost their lives due to the diseases and accidents during the US construction phase of the canal. On October 10, 1913, President Woodrow Wilson sent a telegraph signal from the White House that triggered an explosion destroying the Gamboa Dike. This caused the Culebra Cut to flood and ultimately led to the joining of the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans via the Panama Canal. The first ship to ever pass through the Panama Canal was on August 3, 1914. The construction of the canal was completed in 1914, 401 years after the Panama was first crossed overland by the Europeans by a group of conquistadors. The United States spent almost $500 million, roughly equivalent to $14.6 billion in 2024, to finish this project. This was by far the largest American engineering project to date. In Panama, a lack of water has hampered canal operations in recent years, and some shipping experts say that vessels may soon have to avoid the canal altogether if the problem gets worse. Fewer passages could deprive Panama's government of tens of millions of dollars in annual revenue, push up the cost of shipping, and increase the price of shipping goods through alternative routes. Though Panama has an equatorial climate that makes it one of the wettest countries in the world, rainfall there has been 30% below average this year, causing water levels to plunge in the lakes that feed the canal and its mighty locks. Panama's government must act promptly to maintain their trade leadership in the region. The decline of the Panama Canal has led people to consider the necessity of building alternative canals. Do you remember the idea of the Nicaraguan Canal as an alternative to the Panama Canal? Right, this idea has gained a new life and is more relevant than ever in 2024. Technology has advanced significantly since the Panama Canal's construction over 100 years ago. Isn't this our best chance to save the world trade despite all the crises we've faced over the past few years? No, I'm not saying that the Panama Canal is in imminent danger of collapsing, but the Panamanian government needs to address the issue and take measures to ensure the reliable transportation of goods through the canal. Otherwise, their main competitor, Nicaragua, may overtake them sooner than expected.